And welcome back to the KidFirst Sports Podcast. This is your KidFirst host, Coach Dave Vassilaros. And yes, I enjoy saying that as much as it sounds like I enjoy saying that. Today is our fourth episode in our series about recruiting. With us again, of course, is the expert, the recruiter with a heart, Elliott Leonard. Thank you for joining us. We're going to hit our senior year. You've got some wisdom for us. You got some pro tips. Thanks for being here. Let's just get right into it. Where do you want to start?
Let's jump. Let's get into framing the senior year and what it really means. A lot of student athletes may have already committed to schools. Another chunk of athletes are where you are right now in this process, which is they're not committed. They're having conversations, but they're seeing the tunnel begin to close on them. And the only time that tunnel really closes is if you stop doing what you need to do and what you've been continuously doing since your freshman year. So you need to stay extremely optimistic. You need to stay committed to yourself, to your goals, to your objectives, which is to play at the college level. And you cannot let what other people are saying, what other people are posting, whether they're true or not, affect you. You need to stay in your own lane and realize the right opportunity for you is going to come if you continue this process like you should. So that's the first thing I wanted to sort of talk through, because a lot of people give up. A lot of people in their senior year say it's not worth it. I'm not good enough. I didn't do the work as much as I should have, so now I'm too far behind. There's always an opportunity. Parents will always be frantic when their children are seniors. First thing I tell them to do, take a break, pause, relax, take 2 or 3 days away from this, because nothing's happening in those 2 or 3 days. You just need to chill out and have faith that it's going to work out for the right reasons.
Okay, so reset the mind a little bit. And I can see that, especially if they have done the work and they haven't gotten an offer yet, that the self-doubt starts to creep back in. And then they say, well, maybe this isn't for me. And you know what? There are circumstances where it may not be for you. Like kids' priorities change. They may have loved playing soccer or softball or whatever it is their whole lives. And then something happened after junior season and they lost their love. That's okay. That's okay. Take an honest look and say, where am I at? Is this still my goal?
That self-appraisal is so important. You just need to be honest with yourself. If it's something that is too consuming and this effort that you're putting in is way too much, then you should look at that. Because when you get to the next level, especially when you're playing at a high level, this process is nothing compared to the dedication and commitment that you need to play and continue to play at the next level. So,
okay, so mindset, reset. Awesome. Yeah. Let's dive in.
We really need to start narrowing down our choices and taking a really good look at those conversations once again. What are the genuine conversations? Which are the ones that don't really have interest in just stringing us along, so that you can have a group of these target schools that you can, once again, continue to have really direct conversations with to keep the ball moving forward. So that would be number one. Make that list concise and get rid of all the extraneous schools that aren't really going to pan out if you're honest with yourself.
By the way, this is assuming you haven't already got an offer that you're happy with, right? So this is, take that group of people out. You're still waiting on an offer. Narrowing down choices based on the athletics. Now, this is also the time where you're applying to get into the schools.
Yeah.
So let's say you have 5 to 10 schools you're really serious about. You've got some traction, some feedback from their coaches. Are you saying apply to all 5 or 10 to get in as a student?
It's such a great point, and I'm sorry I overlooked it. If you want to play in college and you haven't had much success with some of these schools, but you know you're going to get into them academically, that's the first thing you should be doing, is applying to these schools. Because it's taking a barrier away. Because the coach then doesn't have to worry about getting your information to the registrar, earlier, this or that. And I mentioned one of the student athletes we worked with recently. One of the main reasons he's playing Division I soccer right now is because not only did he get early, he got one of the biggest scholarships academically. So the more that you could do to put the coach's mind at ease, the better off you're going to fare when it comes to getting picked up on a roster.
Put yourself in the coach's seat for a second, parents and kids. How do I make his choice easier to pick me? I've done the athletic stuff. I've sent him my sizzle. We've been in communication. If I can say, hey, coach, I applied early, and here's my SAT score, and here's my GPA, and I've already talked to admissions, and they not only am I going to get in, but they think there's a really good chance I'm going to get academic scholarship. I just wanted you to know that that's where I'm at. That makes his choice easier in the balance.
So much easier. And those are the conversations, the emails you need to be sending, and they need to hear. And that's really just advocating for yourself. I think there was a line in one of the emails that one of our student athletes sent out. He said, and my GPA will help raise the team's overall GPA by 1.2, right? Like, that's how he was like, he said it well, and it wasn't condescending, but it was just taking another barrier and saying, listen, I could be an asset to this program in more than one way.
I love it. So that's the first one. It's really kind of two in one, but narrow down your choices. But before that, be thinking about the academic side. An early admission is a powerful tool, at least as far as I understood, right? If you say, this is my number one school, I'm applying early admission. If I get in, I'm coming here. Yeah, it shows commitment. That's right. That's right. So just something to think about. All right.
I needed you to get into Lehigh. I had to do that. He said, you're not getting in here unless you do that.
Well, so you've experienced it.
Yep.
Okay, number two.
So when it comes to the senior year, one of the most significant things is always going to be staying in constant contact with these coaches so that you can understand where you are within their roster. The depth chart is really the word I'm looking for, right? We'll always have our depth chart of where we want our student athletes and whether or not they're going to school, whether they're committing to us. So understanding what that chart looks like and where you are on that chart is going to be really helpful to have meaningful conversations, direct conversations, and then ultimately make decisions whether you want to stick around to be at a lower depth chart than maybe somewhere else, even though it's not your first choice, right? So it's sort of weighing all of these different outcomes that come into play during this time. And the one thing I'd say on this is it's really great if you have someone in your life that goes beyond your parents, but maybe an advisor or a mentor to bounce some of this stuff off of, because there's so many different facets of the recruitment process that might come into play. You don't want emotion necessarily to be at the core of it. You want to do your best to make a decision based on the information that is currently available to you. And if you have someone in your life that can help you do that, it's going to be really impactful. So
good tip. And I just throw out, this is where having a KidFirst coach at a club matters. Because I can tell you right now, if any one of my players called me and said, Coach, can I walk through this with you and get your thoughts? I would be like, yes, right now, let's meet at Starbucks. I will do whatever I can for you. And there's a million coaches like me out there. But if you have one, instead of the ones that view you as a piece of meat, then you give them a call. That's a beautiful thing, a nice kind of completion to the investment that a coach has made into a player for all these years, for them to call and say, hey, I could use some help and some insight. Okay, that's number two. Now, there's this constant contact thing where if you haven't got an offer yet, are you sending new highlights? Do you update the video and the social side along the way, even while you're at this stage?
Yes. I don't want to rehash the story too much, but it was on the 12th highlight video in the 24th hour, right? 23rd hour, where one of our student athletes got a full ride to a top divisional program because they liked what they saw. And if you're not constantly updating, just like business, if you're not constantly innovating, if you're not making yourself better and look better, and you're going to get passed by. So I would not stop innovating, creating, reaching out, being consistent until you've signed on that dotted line and you are 100% committed to a school.
Go that extra mile. All right. Before we get to the third point, which has to do, I think, with kind of what do you do after you've signed and committed, what can a parent or a kid expect? Let's say we've done all the work. The coach is like, yes, hey, Elliott, I want you on my squad. Here's what it's going to be. what's an offer look like? Is it an email? Is it in the mail? What to expect?
Coaches are human. Some coaches are really detail oriented. They dot their I's and they cross their T's, and they're transparent, and they provide you with all the information needed, and you won't have to do much of anything except sign it when it comes in. You'll know about it in advance. And then there are college coaches that just want you to show up the first day of school and maybe sign some stuff with a pencil. I can't tell you what to expect because I've seen it all. But what I can say is, if you have any doubt in your mind of whether you're getting X amount of scholarship, there needs to be documentation. You need to have transparent communication. You do not take anything for granted because it will come back to bite you in the butt. You need to dot your I's and cross your T's when it comes to this process. If you think you heard something incorrectly or there's a discrepancy, make sure you take care of it right then and there, because I've seen some pretty crappy things happen to some pretty great people, and it was just because they felt bashful or they felt insecure or they felt stupid, because we've gone over it so many times. So just make sure you're really professional about this process in this stage. Super important.
My kids joke that on my tombstone, they're going to put on there, nobody cares about your crap as much as you do. And I think that fits into what you're saying. Like, these coaches, you may come across a coach who's not detail oriented. Doesn't matter. You have to be detail oriented. Yeah. That's the point. No one cares about your opportunity to play soccer in college or whatever sport more than you. Right. And it's not that coach, even if that coach loves you and you're going to be a great asset. He's not going to care. He's not going to care more than you should care. Don't feel stupid or sheepish. This is your life we're talking about. 100%. Yep. I wanted to get a mm-hmm. All right. So you get the offer in whatever form it looks like. You get it all buttoned up. What's the last point?
Making sure that you're prepared. Prepared in a multitude of different ways, right? Prepared emotionally for coming into a program where there's going to be a lot asked of you. Making sure that you're showing up fit. Making sure you're meeting all your obligations that you signed off on to be an impactful and integral part of that program. I've seen freshmen show up out of shape. I've seen them show up not emotionally present. And they fail every time. They just struggle. And a lot of that comes down to not understanding the jump emotionally, athletically, that you're about to take. The level academically, it's different. You don't have school every day, but you got to go to class and you got to know your schedule. There's a lot riding on it. Athletically, bigger, stronger, faster. You're not as good as you think you are. I think that's a really good way to sum it up. And if you're humble throughout that process and you're doing what you need to do from the coach's standpoint, what they're sending you over the summer, you're going to be successful. But don't take that for granted. And a lot of student athletes coming into programs take it for granted. And statistically, a class of 7 to 8 players, by their junior year, there will be 2 or 3 that are with the program still. Statistically, you're not going to make it. And just understand that.
As a 4-year player, right? To play all 4 years or whatever, the odds are against you, is what you're saying.
The odds are against you. By your junior year, I think 70 to 80% of the class is usually gone. I started my class with, I think it was 8 guys, and we had 4 by my senior year. The other 4 or 5 that we had did the fraternity thing and had an amazing time in college, but not with the soccer program.
Not with the soccer program.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, as we wrap up this 4-year journey, it reminds me of the dog that finally caught the mail truck. The dog's been chasing this mail truck for all through the neighborhood and finally catches it, smacks right into it. He's like, well, now what? I caught it. Like, now what? And so this goes back to what you said before. At each step, and this is your words, not mine, but I make sure I say it right. At each phase, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, pre-commitment, post-commitment, freshman year in college, etc., self-assess. Be honest with yourself and say, what are my real goals? Why am I doing this? And is it making me happy? Is it making me happy? This is the recruitment with a heart part. Being a Division I scholarship athlete is such a tiny sliver of who you really are and what you will accomplish in this life. But when you're young, it's the biggest thing. But if you can practice or get into this mode of self-assessment and setting your goals and being honest, and maybe you have a mentor or a parent who can help you with that, when you hit college and you realize, wow, I love studying physics. And to be a physics major is a massive academic load. I am being stretched too thin. I think I want to be a physics major and not a soccer player. That is okay. That's totally fine. Knowing that you can come to that conclusion, and it's okay if you said, well, I did all that stuff for 4 years. I owe it to myself to keep playing. No, you don't. No, you don't. You owe it to yourself to do the thing that brings you the greatest amount of joy and happiness and fulfillment. If it's not soccer because it's physics, do that. If you want to get married young like I did, get married young. Do that. Just because it's sports and you put all this investment in, that doesn't mean you have to stick with it forever. Elliott, I'm going to give you the last word.
Yeah, no, thank you. And my last word is thank you for the opportunity to come on here and provide what I know is the right information to student athletes and to coaches, directors, families, because there's a lot of information out there that is not the best. And I wish everyone the best of luck with their process. I hope it is fruitful.
Oh, you're the best. Well, guess what? I didn't ever sell ShamWows, but wait, there's more. We're going to do, you thought this was over. This does conclude our 4 years trek through what to expect and what to do in each year for recruitment. We are going to do one more episode, and this is going to be an overview of the tools. If you're a parent like me and you just listen to these 4 episodes, what you're probably coming out with is, oh my gosh, I don't know how to make videos. I'm no good at social media. I don't know how to contact coaches, how to track my contacts and my interactions with coaches. Is there someone that can help me? Are there tools out there? Is there guidance? Is there consulting? Is there production studios? Whatever it is, we're going to take our last, we'll call it episode 4.5, and just review some of the tools that are out there. Elliott, I know you thought you were getting out of here. I'm going to hold you to one more, but we're going to get to that after this. This is Coach Dave from KidFirst Sports Podcast. You're now done with your senior year. I hope you've learned a ton. And more importantly, I hope you've had a chance to think truthfully and honestly about these issues. Talk about it with your parents and people that you trust and love. We're out on this one. We'll be back with our final episode 4.539er in the next time. See ya.